What up? What's going on? Welcome to Kids Moment, Part 4, where I share a story about just being a father and what I've learned, from raising my kids. This will be the last one, I believe, and I saved the best for last. This is a sensitive subject to talk about because one, uh, I will be bringing up scriptures that is popular scriptures that I'm kind of like going against in a way. Also, this is talking this story that I'm talking about. It has to do with not my biological children, but my stepchild when I was we wasn't even married at that time, but we was together. Uh, but uh, so I get on into it. So this was in 2012 when this happened. This was 2011. This was before my youngest daughter was born. And at the time, me and her mom wasn't together. We were staying in separate houses. So she was staying in the apartment. I was staying in the house. She had left the house and moved into an apartment. So we wasn't in the right terms. We were still trying to figure things out. And as you can see in the thumbnail, I've been in my stepdaughter life since she was young. In fact, since she was in the womb. I've been in her life since then. I done went to baby showers, to her first birthday, and in that picture, that was her christening. So, like, I've been in her life that whole time. Uh, so, uh, what happened was, even though we're separated, she was getting in trouble at school. Um, the principal at the time said that she was cussing and throwing stuff around, and her mom was at work, so she called me and was like, hey, can you go up there and check on her? And I ain't gonna lie, because of our situation and because I knew that she wasn't my biological child, I was thinking like, at this moment I'm thinking like we probably won't even be with each other anymore. So it's like I don't want to try to be stepping in like that, you know, because it just made the situation a little bit more difficult. So I was kind of frustrated that she was calling me, but at the same time, it was like I've been in her life since, the beginning. I'm probably the only one that can go because, her father didn't even stay in town. And, her mom's mom probably wasn't gonna be able to go up there. So it was like it was up to me to go up there, to check on her. And this is a serious situation. To me it was like a serious situation because like that's not something that, I play around with where, you destroying, property and stuff. Like the kids know not to do that. Like I don't even raise them that way and they don't do that around me. So, I went up there and she told me, the situation. Yeah, she was cussing and she was knocking stuff around and stuff. So, the first time, I had to talk with her. It was hard for me to believe that she was cussing. Even though she said, I can see, I know she got, she be having some attitudes and stuff. So I can see her throwing stuff around, but I don't know why she's doing it. But, I can see her doing that. So it's believable to me. So, I talked to her, had that conversation with her or whatever. Think it's over with. Next day, same thing. Hey, gotta come up here. She knocking stuff over and she cussing and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, like, what is going on? You know? Like, now I feel kind of embarrassed because I done had that talk and she ain't, it, she kind of like disrespecting me, in a way, the way I look at it, they know that I don't play that. Like, by me coming up there, I'm thinking that's it. It's over with. So I go up there and I see the stuff, all over the place. And like I said, I'm feeling embarrassed. And I'm still kind of like I said, me and her mom having our thing. So I'm still kind of like frustrated with the whole situation. It's a lot of stuff going on in the midst of that. So, and then now I'm frustrated because I done had a talk with you and you still, doing stuff. So, the lady looking at me like, I'm feeling like, man, I'm a bad father. And, especially with her cussing and stuff, it's like, she telling me, hey, like, this is what's going on. So I'm feeling embarrassed and I got to do something about it. So, I whoop her. I took her to the bathroom and I whooped her. I spanked her because, at the time, it's like, I wanted this lady to know that I'm supporting them and I don't want her to be doing stuff like that. And we don't respect that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we do. So I spanked her. And I mean, that's what I do with my kids anyway. They know, if I have to keep on, I ain't about to keep telling you stuff. It's you get your warning and then you get a spanking or whatever. So I spanked her and I'm thinking that's it. I done spanked her, she cried, and that's it. That's it. She ain't gonna, do nothing no more. All right. Next day, she do it again. And I'm like, man, what in the world is going on? Like, I'm really frustrated now because now, like I said, one, me and her mom going through our situation. Two, I done been up there twice and you know, nothing that I'm doing is working. And the lady looking at me like, hey, we can't have this. And I'm the same way, like, we can't have this because she throwing stuff around, she knocking stuff over. And like I said, she cussing. I ain't never heard her cuss. I don't cuss around my kids. So I don't know where she getting this stuff from. And it kind of like, I'm kind of like thinking like, man, is she telling the truth? Because dang, I just don't like it. Don't make no sense. Like what she doing don't make no sense. I ain't never had no issues like this with her before. Like I ain't never had to go to this extent. But I'm like, dang, I gotta take it up a notch. The whooping didn't do nothing. So what can I do? I guess that whooping just wasn't enough. Like she ain't scared of that. So I know she don't like being outdoors. And right there by the apartment, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna take her over here to this dang area by the woods, and we gonna be running, back and forth, run back and forth, cause she don't like being out there. I know how she is; she hate it. So I took her out there and got her running back and forth, and she, I'm getting results. She don't want to do that, and I talked to her like, you can't be doing this, and I'm thinking, this is it. I really got her on this. She about to stop, you know. Man, call me again. Or call the mom and the mom calling me. And I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, I'm just baffled by the whole situation. Like I said, we got, I'm frustrated because me and her mom is going through stuff, and now the dad is involved and the grandma involved. Like, it's a whole bunch of stuff going on now, you know. And you got her going, at school acting up or whatever, and we trying to handle that. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, well, me and the mom is not together, and I'm over here doing this, not even knowing if I'm going to even be with her mom. So it's like I'm just confused. This whole situation is just confusing. Everything is confusing, and I had a moment where I don't know. I guess God was talking to me, you know, and just showing me how, every before then, like I ain't had an issue, but this all happened after me and her mom separated, and then all this other extra stuff was going on in the midst of that. So it's like I realized, cause what was happening was in the midst of all that, she was coming and telling me stuff, that was going on. And like I said, she's a kid. I wasn't thinking about, all this stuff is affecting her, you know. I'm just thinking about, she's acting up, or I'm just thinking about me as an adult and mom and all that stuff going on. So something was like, it's this situation is affecting her. Everything that's going on, what you if you're frustrated about all this, imagine how she feel. You know what I mean? Cause she might not, she can't voice it. She's voicing it, but she can't really voice it. She's telling me stuff, letting me know that there's things that's affecting her, but I didn't know that it was like affecting her. So someone was like, instead of, whooping and trying to just discipline her, sit down. I took her to a park and I sat down with her, got her some food, sat down with her, and something told me to explain the whole situation about her father, and then me being a stepfather, like the differences, and just getting her to understand it, because you know it's a big ball of confusion when you have a man that's been in your life since birth, and you never been sat down and talked about, who that person is versus who the father is. And you know what I mean, like I just sat down and explained all that stuff to her, because we never, like, so much stuff been going on, nobody actually been sat down. She haven't been like really like sat down and talked to like that. So I did it, and man, when I did that, it's like the doors just opened for her, to where she was just talking to me about every single thing that she was feeling. Uh, and before then, like when I said, like when they're whooping or me talking to her and stuff, it was straight up silence. Like, just, it is what it is. The whooping, yeah, she cried and stuff, but she wasn't opening up. But when I sat down and talked to her, man, she just straight up opened up and started talking to me, you know? And I was like, man, like I feel like that was like a breakthrough for her, because I haven't seen that in her in a while, where she's just sitting there talking to me and just opening up. Uh, and that day I just learned that, ain't all about that discipline and stuff like that, right? And I say that I'm bringing this up because this is a common thing that we all know or talk about, and it's in the Bible. And I'm gonna read these scriptures out and I'm pretty sure everybody done heard these scriptures before. So I'm gonna just go down the line because it's evident, that it's in here and that it's talking about it. So ain't no denying it. Proverbs 13:24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, or hateth his son, but he that loveth him chastise him betimes. All right. Proverbs 3:12. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. Proverbs 19:18. Chastise thy son while there is hope. Let not thy soul spare for his crying. A lot of people know that one. They quote that one. Proverbs 22:15. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Right? That's another one. Drive it far from it. When you think about people thinking about that dang butt whooping, bam, they bringing up this right here. Withhold not correction from Proverbs 23:13-14. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell. That's like one of the main ones that they talk about. Beatest him with that rod. He shall not die. All right. These are heavy scriptures. These are heavily talked about. Heavily, heavily, heavily talked about. Proverbs 29:15. The rod and the reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringing his mother to shame. So, basically, hey, you got to correct your children. And I'm all for that, right? I'm all for that. But I believe that just like I was talking about, because I told you, like in this video, in the this one right here is similar to part one, where I had to learn, different ways, and on that correction or trying to correct all the time. It's not always right. You know what I mean? Like, you do need to sometimes sit back and be chill, be aware of the situation and know how to approach it. Just going in and correct. Trying to correct the person is not right. Whooping the whoop. Like, if you are old enough, you know that sometimes whooping just ain't gonna do it. Like, some people will sit there and take that butt whooping all day long. That is not gonna correct them. All right. And when you and this is before I had my relationship with Christ. So I didn't understand this, but now I do in hindsight. Like, when you come to Christ, you understand love. Some people need to be loved. That's what Jesus did. Like, it wasn't always about correcting. Sometimes people are going through something and they need an ear, or they need to hear something uplifting, or they might, like in her situation, just need some knowledge, or whatever the case may be, to feel something other than that, that belt or that correction. Because not to give too much, but in her situation, she was getting some type of something that was weighing her down. you know she was being weighed down by something, and what I did was just help her understand, like, that weight was lifted off her. And that's what we have to consider sometimes, especially when you're dealing with someone like I said, with her, like I wasn't always around her. I don't know everything that's going on. You know, I didn't know what was going on when she go be with her dad or go with somebody else. So, you know, like I said, she at this time she wasn't even staying with me anymore. So there was a lot of things that was going on that I had no idea that was going on. And you have to be considerate of those type of things. Um and that's what I learned from that was like sometimes you got to back off, you know, and especially, you know, with her, she was a child, she wasn't able to express everything that she needed to express. And even with adults, you can come across adults that's that way too. Like they can't explain what's going on in their life. You know, they don't have that knowledge to be able to express themselves, you know. And you have to have that patience and that peace, that quietness, like I said, and pay attention, like I was saying in that other video, to the point where you can see what's going on and know the righteous way to approach it. So that's what happened in this situation. And God, like I said, it was a blessing because I learned a lot, you know. I learned a whole lot, you know, that corrected me to where I can be a little bit more helpful to people that are in that situation, you know, and children, you know. So I want to bring up a scripture that I saw, and I'm not sure if this is dealing with or it's how I'm about to reveal, or how I'm about to interpret what it's saying. I'm not sure if it's exactly that because this is my first time actually seeing this scripture. But I seen it while I was, you know, looking at these other scriptures in Proverbs. So this is Proverbs 29:21. He that delicately, you know how I am with these words, delicately, meaning carefully, bringeth up his servant from a child, shall have him become his son at the length. All right. So before that, Proverbs 29:19, it says, a servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer. All right. So when I seen this, one, the delicately, that's basically what I've been talking about. Like you do have to be careful, you know what I mean, with how you handle children or your, and this one is talking about servant. And the way I was interpreting it was like, for instance, with my children, my kids, like I don't be all the way delicate with them. Like they understand to a sense where I'm not like they're not scared or they're not like shut off. Not all the time. Sometimes they have a moment where they might be in their feelings, but you know, when I say things to them, they don't take it, you know, to heart a lot of times. You know, but it's different when you raising somebody else's child or you raising somebody that is not yours, you know, because they were saying like a servant, you know, bringing up a servant. So, um, I do think that, you know, in the sense of situations like that, no different than like when it came to in my first video when I talked about, you know, with their mom, you know, versus my family. Like it was like with my family, you know, I talked to them and we talk, you know, with aggression and passion and stuff, and don't nobody take it no type of way. But it's different when you're dealing with somebody that wasn't raised that way or don't know you that way and you get that way and then they're like, whoa, you know what I mean? Or they might be going through stuff that you don't have no idea about, and you have to be careful. Like, they might not be able to receive that hard correction like how your child or your family member that is close to you might receive it, you know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, when you build your relationship with Christ, Christ show you all throughout his gospel and his walk that, you know what I mean, there got to be some type of balance. That Proverbs that talking about correcting your child, a lot of people bring that up when it comes to whooping, you know. But I got something that, I want to share, and that's in Hebrews 12. I have to go to it, so bear with me. So this is Hebrews 12:7. And, forgive me. I'm about to be ministering right now. I mean, I'm about to be preaching or whatever you want to call it, but I'm about to go through these scriptures and, like I said, I'm going to share just, what I received from it, so we'll do 7 through 10. All right. So if ye endure chastisement, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the father chastised not? So a lot of people bring that up because it's like, hey, I'm doing this because I'm the father and I'm supposed to be doing this, right? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then ye are bastards and not sons. So it's basically saying like, if a person don't chastise you, then you're not their son. You know what I mean? And think about it, a servant and all that. That might line up with it. All right. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto a Father of spirits and live? So it's saying that, uh, your parents back in the days corrected you. You know what I mean? So when God corrects you, you shouldn't feel no type of way. You know what I mean? That's just, you know, and this is going into your spiritual journey, where it's talking about God correcting you, right? But this is what I'm wanting to get into right here. So in 10 it says, for they verily for a few days chastise us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. So the part that I want to get to is the after their own pleasure, right? So a lot of times when we whoop our children or we're correcting them, it be because of for our sake. We're thinking about us, it's just like I was saying about when I was doing it with her. I was embarrassed and I didn't want her. I didn't want to be looking bad, like I ain't, how it is. You ain't raising my kids to be like that, and you know what I mean. Uh, so you can be at that moment. You can be in your feelings about the whole situation, and that kind of like would make you wanna just straight up hurry up and correct them because you don't want them. You don't want to be looking all crazy, you know. Now, for one, I just want to bring up the fact that you have to be careful with that because um, what if that lady was lying? What if that lady wasn't telling the truth and I just went in there and straight up corrected my child and that lady was the whole time was lying? So it's like you have to be careful with trying to get that weight off you or that fear of you looking bad, like you said, for your own pleasure. You know, you have to be careful with that. Just thinking about yourself, trying to get yourself up out of that situation. Like, you do need to be, aware of what is going on. Be patient with, just trying to correct or whatever, man. Um, because like I said, it can be, at the end of the day, we be thinking that it be righteous, but yeah, if you correct your children, it may put them on a righteous path, or it may help them out, but in some situations it might not. So you have to be have some type of wisdom behind it to where you're making the righteous choice. Because just if you go about things just about whooping and correcting all the time, you might not hit it. You might miss the mark or whatever. So you have to be, you got to be cautious. You got to be cautious of the person and the situation. So I hope I ain't, 30 minutes. Woo, man. This is a long one right here, man, but it's a deep one, that need to be talked about, and need to be talked about. I pray that what I said, is pleasing to God, and I ain't, gone off, but yeah, man, this is what I learned in that situation, and I just wanted to share it. And I think I done said enough when it comes to that. I'm gonna just leave it at that. So if this is something that hits home, and you understanding, and all about it, man, please do share a comment or whatever. And if you disagree with it, you can comment also. um but as always, man, like I said, I'm gonna end this is the end of that kids moment, where I share these stories, because these are the 4 stories that have been on my heart for the longest, that I felt like God wanted me to share. So this probably gonna be the end of it, part 4. So like I said, man, appreciate you for listening, man, and always, man, I love you, and you have a blessed day.